Oh, no, she's in an airport, so that might happen. Okay, so today is May 27th and it's 6 p.m. So we're going to get started. Tom is not online. I think he's traveling. Rodney is online. Jody might be joining us. Jody from T2. Dewan is here in the room. Dominic's here in the room. I am here in the room. Doreen is here, our bureau chief, which is excellent. And I think Chief Franklin will also be joining us. So I got another quote for phase 3. So phase 1 is now going to be the municipal lots, and we'll start with those so that Dorian can test how everything is working and make sure that the enforcement understands the new system, and that the system, the text to park system is working for us. Phase 2 will be where there are not meters now, so Lower and Upper Warren. And then phase 3 will be, excuse me, Warren Street between 3rd and 8th. And then I have on the document that I sent everybody, phase 4, which would be the side streets between Warren and Columbia and Warren and Union on 5th, 6th, and 7th. But we're gonna skip those for now because we don't have it in the budget to buy kiosks for those zones. But they will still have the option to pay with text to park in those zones.
So you said the first, did you say 3rd and below? What zone, what one's that in? Because
Phase 2.
okay,
Yeah.
I thought you said from 8, I thought you said up to
No,
8.
phase 2 is going to be everywhere where there's not a meter now.
Okay,
On Warren.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you meant upper Warren.
Yeah,
That upper and lower.
Okay,
So
yeah,
between 8th and
Lower Warren, too. Yeah,
yeah, lower.
gotcha.
between 1st and 3rd, or front and 3rd.
Yeah.
Kevin and I have been discussing the signage. So what we need to do today is just really nail down all of the fees, hours, any special programming that we're going to be doing, just so that we have it for the signage and that we can get those things printed so that we can go ahead and start with installation. We also need all of that information for a fact sheet that we will be, which I'm aiming to send out in the water bill, and it needs to be done by June 16th. So that's 2,000 tri-folded pieces of paper. If anybody wants to help me, I would greatly appreciate it because I don't want to fold all 2,000 pieces of paper. Also, do
It's
you?
a trifold, right?
Yeah, you know, boo-boo.
I talked to you about this. I mean, maybe I have something,
Okay,
maybe I'm not sure, but I have to find out first.
and I don't know, I guess, do we, as far as the cost for that, I mean, I can front the money, but how do we usually take care of costs for mailers?
What do you mean front the money?
Like if I go to Staples and have this thing made, I can pay for it, but I would need to be reimbursed.
Well,
How does that work?
well, it depends on the amount.
Right.
And
It'll
also,
probably be about $200. If it's 2,000, it's 10 cents a piece.
you might need to
Talk to-
you might need to, I don't know, because I would check with Heather first. We
Yeah.
might have a Staples.
That's right.
Okay, so. I'll
Or
do
Staples
that.
might be able to send a PO or something.
Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is, I just got the quote for the 3rd phase. And I really worked hard to reduce the number of kiosks so that we weren't really blowing our budget out. So we're at, for the for that third phase, $255,808.29. I would like to know, Doreen, do you know what the protocol is for having this taken care of? Do I send it to you and Heather? I think you received it too.
I received this quote,
Mhm.
but the last time I talked to Heather, it sounds like everything would need to go to common council as a vote,
Okay,
and then we would be able to sign some kind of a agreement at that point, but we can't go into an agreement.
okay. So I will reach out to Heather about that, and I'll also try and put together, now that I have more numbers, I'll try and put together a more fixed budget, for now, and also just planning for the future. Because I really do think that at some point we will need an LPR. I think it's really important. I think for the management of ticketing, that's gonna be important. So right now, the situation will be that they have to scan every single license plate as they walk. What it has been is they can see the blinking of the meter.
Mhm.
That's not gonna happen anymore. Hopefully internally within the handheld, they can see, okay, in zone 1, we've got 3 cars that are about to go. In zone 5, we have 6, and they know where to put themselves in order to be able to scan. But what the LPR would do is, we do have a car available for this. I've talked to Chief Franklin about it, and there is a car available. We do have an LPR system right now, but it doesn't work with the T2 components. So we would have to purchase one that would work, and it's about $53,000.
Mm,
We don't have that in our budget.
And it's a handheld unit?
No, it goes on top of the car and it scans.
I know it does, but I'm saying, okay, so it has to be mounted on a vehicle.
Right.
So
And
parking will have to have their own designated vehicle for this?
Yes, so we already have that vehicle. It already exists.
Okay.
As it drives, it scans the plates,
So,
and they would know, okay, stop at this car because they need a ticket.
so we have to get the software or we have to get a hook in?
It's a hardware and software situation.
But also, if it's gonna read license plates, it's not just gonna read parking violations, it's gonna read other violations, no registrations, it's not.
It'll read everything,
Right,
but it's specific this is specific for parking tickets.
but yeah, I know what you're saying,
Yeah.
but is the system gonna be just, what I'm saying is parking enforcement's gonna use this vehicle for just parking.
Yeah,
However, the reader's gonna pick up a vehicle that might have other violations
Yeah.
attached to the vehicle, and at that time. do
they can call the
this-
police,
Yeah, okay.
which is what they do right now,
Okay,
Okay,
anyway.
mhm.
So they scan the registration on the car now. And if they see something, they call the police. So it'll be the same situation. Like I mean, they're not deputized,
No, I get,
Yeah.
what I'm saying, yeah, right.
So it's the same situation. So for fees and hours, the suggestion was made by Kevin that we do Monday through Saturday, 8 AM to 6 PM. Is everybody good with that?
So you mean for the, when it's,
For them to pay, for
Gotcha.
people to pay for parking,
uh-huh,
8 AM to 6.
now we have until 5, right?
Right.
8 to 5.
Yeah.
So you want to extend one more hour?
9 to 5.
Oh, 9 to 5, my bad, yeah, 9, so extending both sides.
what is the rationale for the other, because that's also,
Revenue.
well, it's gonna be revenue, but it's also gonna add 10 more hours.
No, it doesn't necessarily, because the police will take care of that the way that they do overnight.
So may I interject here just for a second? Hi, everybody. Good to see you. There is a difference between advertising, I'll use that word advertising, or posting or informing the public about enforcement hours as opposed to parking hours. They are two different things. But if you read that you're having enforcement hours, then you're likely not to pay. If you read that correctly, you're not likely to pay during the non-enforcement hours. However, I can tell you from experience that people bypass reading, as you know, and they pay anyway. So this is a further question as to, is this city going to have the policy that they turn off the ability to pay during non-enforcement hours? That's a question you have to ask yourselves. And maybe it hasn't been posed yet. The upshot being that if people don't read and they're paying the city to park, that's revenue in the city's coffers. The city did the right thing. They advertise when enforcement hours are, as opposed to completely shutting it down where they can't pay. That's a different situation.
Enforcement hours are 24 hours a day though, Kevin, because it essentially, if our parking enforcement guys, the guys whose job it is to only look at meters, even when they're not working, parking rules are enforced by the police. So it doesn't really matter.
Well, they're not going to issue a ticket for not paying a meter at 1 a.m. in the morning, is my point.
Right,
However,
because you don't have to.
I can tell you 30% of people will pay at the meter because they're not reading the enforcement hours. So I just want to make that delineation clear. You have active meter hours and you have enforcement hours, and it's completely up to you the way you want to word that. What we find is when we post enforcement hours, people park beyond enforcement hours and they still pay to park. The only way around that is to stop them from paying during the non-enforcement hours.
So
But my point is, it's still going to be enforced. If a police officer drives by.
I got Kevin, you trying to say like, after that, meter time, then you're gonna stop paying or something, right? Like, 8 to 6, that's the meter time, like, payment time. But after 6 o'clock, then it's not gonna take any money or any tax to pay, right? That's what I'm talking about?
The point of me bringing it up is, Jen, have you had this discussion with ITS as to them changing the language in the meter at 6 o'clock where it says, hey, welcome to Hudson, it's now free parking? Or will that meter still take money at that point? That's the point of bringing it up.
I think we yeah, I think that leaving that ambiguous is really not fair to the public and for the city itself. I think that if it's if our meters are supposedly, or not meters, our parking time is supposedly from 8 to 6, the meters should not have the ability to take payment beyond those hours. I don't think
That's important.
because yes, we're trying to increase revenue, but we're not trying to get the
It's
public.
not what I'm suggesting at all.
Oh,
No,
I'm not saying Jen, I'm not saying you're suggesting
Kevin.
that, but I think Kevin is saying there is a possibility that
So-
exists. We could do that, and I don't think.
No,
No,
yeah,
I
Kevin
don't
said
think we
like,
should do
yeah,
that.
we shouldn't do that because it's gonna be justice for.
So that's something I'll talk to Adam and Chris about at ITS.
The point of me bringing it up is, what have we decided that the meters will say at 7 p.m.?
That was never asked on their questionnaire.
Okay. That's why I'm-
I wrote into the questionnaire specific hours. Now I have to go back and change a lot of the things that I wrote in that questionnaire because we've had more discussion about it. We haven't implemented any of this, so it shouldn't be a big deal for Chris to change the language.
No, but I also want to apportion that over to the text and scan to park that they should match each other so that when somebody comes up on the phone, they should also get that same message that they would get in the meter. And that's a
Yeah.
program.
Yeah, and that's why I asked Jody to be here, but I don't think she is. She is? Hi, Jody.
Hello, sorry. Hopefully
It's
it's not too
okay.
loud where I am. But guess what? So far, you can absolutely set the language to the pay station for like 6 p.m. It will not accept dollars, coins, what have you. You can absolutely do that in both ends.
Good.
Pay
Okay.
stations and mobile pay, for sure.
Okay, so I'm just making some notes here, kiosk and mobile page.
So are we saying they can start paying at 7 AM though, or we close?
No, no, only 8 to 6 will it accept payment at all for the text to park or the kiosk.
Gotcha.
And then here's the second question.
So the first question, you asked, well, are we gonna do it from 8 to 6? So.
Right, do you want to
so
do
we
that?
wanna do that because,
Yes.
See, I think, and I don't know if this is what, was being alluded to, so, but I think that starting it, even if the enforcement isn't there, right? Enforcement's 8, say it's 8 to 6, but allowing someone to start paying at 7, right? Because that, if somebody's coming to work or whatever, right, then they can pay, before they get to work, otherwise they gotta go, now they can remember at 8:15.
I don't, Jody, do you know if with the text to pay or text to park, can you select your times? I think you can. You select from this time to this time.
That
Is
is
that
correct, Jennifer, yes.
So that answers that.
So, okay, so if they come in park, they can select the time, so it kicks in at 8 o'clock.
Right.
Gotcha.
But that's only with the text to pay. If they're paying cash at the kiosk, they are going to have to go there at that time and pay.
yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
Just like you would with the meter now.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's another question. Do we want to charge Sunday 1 to 6? Because the reason that we weren't charging on Sundays was because of churchgoers. There are 2 churches on Warren Street. And
I think it's unfair
why is it unfair?
because
Church is over by 1.
I know, but people goes on Sunday for religious purpose and they go. I mean, I think it should be no charge on Sunday anyway. I think. I don't know, whatever you think, Dominic.
Jennifer, is this policy only for Warren Street that we're talking about? Paying for Sundays or throughout the
No.
city?
The
What,
whole city.
Be at the short-term lots as well. None of this applies to the long-term lot. Obviously, that's its own beast.
yeah. I don't think it's unfair to charge on Sundays. The only difference being that we would potentially have to staff the parking bureau.
Yeah.
See, this is what I've been saying though, guys. The police and Doreen, correct me if I'm wrong, they have the handhelds just as the parking enforcement guys do. They are able to do exactly what the parking enforcement guys do, and in fact, they do.
But I think that we can't anticipate, especially the weekends, that,
Do you want to give up revenue?
let me finish my thought, please. I don't think we can ask the police department to do parking enforcement on weekends when we don't know what, right now, a lot of the parking enforcement they do during the day are call-in parking enforcement. A lot of their parking enforcement, correct me if I'm wrong, Doreen, are overnight parking, right? They don't do a lot during the day unless they're called to an area. Because I think that Sunday, because of the nature of staffing, I think it's unrealistic that we are gonna put this on the officers' shoulders to do this.
So we're going to give up potentially tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars because we don't want the police to, if they happen to see something.
If I could
Yeah.
frame it, another way, Jen, I think obviously increasing city revenue is a, you know, it's a good aim to have, but pretty much most cities except for like their main core business areas don't charge on sometimes even Saturdays or Sundays. I can see an argument being made to keep Warren Street having a turnover in parking during our weekends because that's when a lot of the traffic comes into town. So you don't want a car lingering on our main business district for the entire weekend. I understand that part of it, but you know, taking that essentially as like a privilege that we're providing our residents as well as our visitors to be able to park in the city and to enjoy the city, especially even on a Sunday. I don't know if that weight really, you know, the cost outweighs the benefits. As cost meaning not the money lost, but the potential backlash, complaints, whatever. What say you? I think you know, just to tie this all together, I think we can make the argument that our core district and Warren Street, we want there to be people, you know, parking. They need to park. They need to go in and out of a store. They, you know, they park from 1 to 6, and you know, they do their business and they leave instead of leaving the car parked in one area. Because I think one of our main aims was to have you know, visitors park in centralized locations like the municipal parking lots and then enjoy the city rather than, you know, in front of a store where it would be more beneficial to have open parking every 2 hours at the minimum. If I can make, I don't know if that kind of.
That doesn't change from one day of the week to the next. I mean, I am the only one actually on the Common Council that actually works on Warren Street. And from what I see,
Mhm.
on Saturdays and Sundays, every single parking spot is taken up. All of the parking within the short-term municipal lots on Warren are taken up. On Saturday, you can't get a spot on Columbia Street in this municipal parking lot. Sunday is a little better, but there's still a lot of parking outside of Warren Street that is taken up. So I just think it's a missed opportunity.
This makes sense because weekend, everybody home and they park, that's why you don't see parking because all of them are home, pretty much. That's why it's.
Right,
see
they're not
over-
their car, right?
Yeah, they're not working, but it's,
They're
I think
it
it's
might be
unfair
residents.
because you.
The people who are on Warren Street on Saturdays and Sundays are not people that live here. I'm serious.
Well, that's
They are visiting.
Jennifer. That's
They're-
why you know, I'm for, you know, having Sunday hours from 1 to 6. So I'm for that, for our business
Okay.
district, but not necessarily. But you know, this is a decision
So
that everybody has to
Roni-
take together. So
right, so Roni, would you be for 1 to 6 on Warren Street and the 2 Warren Street short-term parking lots?
yeah, sure. Because then, at least if they don't want to pay, and our residents will be able to use the municipal parking lots to get away from the rush of Warren Street. And I think that's, you know, forward thinking, because, you know, Hudson being the small town it is, we also have to look at our residents and weigh the, you know,
Yes.
cost benefits from bringing in tourists as well as our residents. We don't want to create unnecessary nuisances for our residents while
I
trying to
agree.
increase revenue.
I agree. Okay.
Chief Franklin has.
Chief Franklin, what's up?
Hi there.
Hi.
Sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight. But just listening to what everybody is saying, I think it would behoove the city to consider enforcement on Sundays. I understand the concern about that. Just considering the tourism and what this committee and what everyone knows for folks visiting the city tends to be probably towards the end of the week. It might just be a consideration to maybe not enforce on, say, a Monday, where most holidays tend to fall as well, and change that to a Sunday, or, you know, half days on Saturdays and Sundays, something to kind of alleviate the full 8 to 6 on both Saturday and Sunday. I don't have a preference. I'm just saying for consideration purposes, it might be difficult to convince some of the enforcement officers to stay until 6 p.m. But that's a challenge that we'll work around.
Not suggesting that they do stay until 6 p.m. I'm saying we charge until 6 p.m. and then if one of the officers who happens to have in their car a T2 handheld happens to give a ticket, they get a ticket.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
chief, it's okay, you could use your officer on weekend as a parking, you know?
if they
if-
run
It's-
around.
It is potential. However, I don't want to put that, I guess, that responsibility on officers, particularly because we don't know what's going to happen on the weekends. We don't know what's going to happen all the time. And I don't want to necessarily dedicate an officer to walk and write tickets when they need to be accessible to their vehicle for an emergency call. Obviously, if we had an LPR equipped to read license plates, or we got a bootable vehicle or some other violation, when an officer was available, they would most certainly be there to enforce, and, you know, issue a ticket for a parking complaint, which we receive on a regular basis. However, to dedicate an officer to do that, I think would be a disservice to what their primary function is.
Yes. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that we can make it 9 to 5. We can keep everything as it always has been. But I do think that we are missing potential revenue in that way. So 8 to 6, okay, for everybody, 8 to 6, okay, with the chief? Or no, we keep it the same?
Yes.
Good. 8 to 6.
Yeah, my consideration was only for enforcement. That was all. Not, I mean, whatever the committee decides for the revenue side is up to you. Mine was just the enforcement piece.
Okay. Kevin,
100%. 8 to 6, definitely.
Dominic,
How can he get the vote?
he's our consultant.
So, that's for the week. What did we decide for the weekend?
Can we just take care of it?
That's through Saturday.
That's through
Through
Saturday.
Saturday, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
Monday through Saturday, 8 to 6. How do you feel?
Well, I kind of like what the chief said about Mondays. Just because, especially if we add Sunday.
I think that if, Doreen, correct me if I'm wrong, most people want Sundays off. Enforcement guys. We have to make decisions today. I have to put together a fact sheet.
Yeah, and whatever,
So no Sunday? Doreen, how do you feel? You're the bureau chief.
I think it's gonna be difficult for the guys to work on Sundays.
Okay, so we'll say no to Sundays then, but 8 to 6, Monday through Saturday. Yeah,
right, but
I
again.
don't
this is-
see anything wrong with Jennifer's idea of just keeping the parking active hours on Sunday. Even if we don't have enforcement, it would still, like Kevin
Active.
alluded to, people will still pay because those are the hours that the meters are active.
You have an opportunity here because you're changing so much to get this, you know, it's almost like when Congress has a bill, that's
Yeah.
what you're looking at here.
Yeah.
Make the changes that you can in this opportune
Right,
time.
just put it in and then we can try to, think about Sunday staffing specifically later.
Mhm.
You could still have the meters be active and then maybe somebody will be enticed to work on Sundays for a few hours, maybe not, who knows, we don't know about that.
So Jennifer, yeah, that's good, but I'm just thinking like, usually, do we get holiday free or no? No, right?
Well,
That's another, that's the whole feature. We have a thing where we do
That's
the
a,
whole month of December.
yeah,
free,
December free, right?
Which I also think is a little ridiculous. I was gonna suggest 2 weeks free, the 2 weeks leading up to Christmas.
Okay, I have a suggestion. In the
Yeah.
December month before holiday, like, that week is free. But instead of any other holiday, like in the month, if it comes up, the Monday, we should
It's
get
free.
free.
Great suggestion. How does everyone feel about that?
Well, that's what's going on now, isn't it?
No, it's the whole month.
For holidays, it's go right now that we don't. enforce New Year's.
Which are,
New Year's, Thanksgiving, Christmas. And maybe if you want on Labor Day.
Okay, but it's still holidays, right? So now they're gonna do,
So maybe like Columbus Day, Veterans Day.
Yeah, we should
Any other-
Yeah,
so we do the week previous. to
previous. The Christmas,
Previous. Christmas. And
major holiday,
holiday Mondays,
Mondays, yeah.
holiday Monday. Okay,
Kevin, what do other municipalities do for holidays?
repeat that, sorry.
What do other municipalities do for the holidays?
I will tell you that recently, because they're not easy to define, they've actually gotten rid of that language because everybody's definition of what a holiday is different, and is not like there's a key next to the sign as to what the holiday is. So recently I've seen that older policy go away on holidays. Jody, what have you
So-
seen?
I would say similar, and I would say the key to all of this is to keep it consistent.
Yep.
Because as soon as you start making exceptions and so on, you confuse,
You confuse. Yep.
and I understand what everybody is saying, but if you can somehow keep things consistent, it just makes more sense.
so what do we, so if we call it national holidays,
Or maybe federal holidays.
federal holidays?
That's also changing.
Oh, is it?
True.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, have you had a call to have free parking on holidays? Is that something that's important?
No, I mean, we haven't done it so far. It was just a suggestion from Dewan.
I mean, if
And typically
holiday,
and you think about like holidays, it tends to be busy. So to
Correct.
have like a consistent parking system in place where you are creating turnover is not a bad way to think about this, because everybody's off, so they're coming into town. So honestly, it might be better to have, people paying for parking on holidays because of that.
Okay.
Because now we're going back to enforcement, because it doesn't necessarily mean that we're enforcing a holiday, but you need to pay for help.
Exactly.
right,
If I can
What we
ask,
see. That's what we see mostly.
can I ask a question, Jen?
Go for it.
If we don't make a policy regarding holidays, we would have the ability, for example, currently, I think it's an executive action where the mayor decides that, the month of December is no longer paid parking. If an executive
Mhm.
action is made for, July 4th, no parking, that could be fairly easily changed through the T2 system, correct?
Absolutely.
So
You
we
can
could just
change
leave
a
that
rate
off of our
within 10
policy
seconds.
and then leave it up to the city to decide on the basis of the merit of that specific holiday.
Great, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mohammed,
So
you make a really
you-
good point. Like on 4th of July, maybe you want to do a flat rate of $5. You can
Yeah.
literally change a rate on a pay station within 10 seconds remotely.
Mm-hmm.
So again, keep it consistent, but anybody has the ability to change a rate whenever.
Great.
Okay, great. That'll be Doreen.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
can post some.
Yeah, they
change it by the minute.
Yes,
Have to come through
because they have
town.
to pass that.
For the mayor.
Yeah, but that, all that takes is a little bit of planning and then Doreen can go into the back end of the system and change
Sure, yeah,
everything.
yeah. Mhm, right.
So we can leave that for now.
Right.
Okay, so we decided 75 cents per hour for the short-term lots. The 2 hour, max situation is still in place. But what we had also talked about is anything over 2 hours, it just doubles in price. So that would be 150 an hour. Is that okay with everybody? Just making sure. Yes,
Is that just the lots or that's gonna be the
it's
kiosk?
gonna be on the kiosks on the street too. But. And then so on the street, it would be $1 per hour for the first 2 hours, and any additional time would be $2 an hour. Is that okay, everybody? Yes?
For the same
Yes.
person.
Yes, for the same,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
if they're sitting in the same
same
parking
location,
spot,
yeah.
yes, then it doubles.
Because we lose the turnover.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. So that's a turnover fee. Long-term parking lot, $10 a day, 24 hours for a 24-hour period. $50 per week. Now, what I was gonna ask you guys is Doreen currently are we keeping Park Mobile as well as the text to park?
Well, I think we're gonna transfer everything right over.
Okay. So let me ask you, Jody, are we able for that one specific lot, the long-term lot, which is on our south front street? Can we do a 24-hour period rate and then a week rate? Which
You
is
sh-
different?
You should be able to do that. Yes. You can set up different rates in different zones, locations, and so on. Yes.
Okay, great. Oh, okay, that's another good question for you. So when someone parks and they are using text to park, are they entering the zone that they're at? So on the signage, does it say enter Hudson to, whatever the number is, text blah, blah, blah number to Hudson? And then when it goes into the system, like when they're in looking through things, do they then pick their zone? So should that be on the signage is what I'm getting at.
Yes, and it can be set specifically to that. Steph should be able to assist you with that if you want to make specific things such as that. Yes.
Great. Okay, so yes. That's what I was really concerned about because right now our parking enforcement, they're going to be because we don't have an LPR, they're going to be scanning plates. And it would be good for them to know on their handheld, hey, zone 1 has 5 cars that are about to run out of time. And
Absolutely.
instead of having to run. Okay, good. Okay, terrific. So we also have numbered spaces, so that we could do also. So in the long-term parking lot, we have numbered spaces. We can have in that particular zone.
In the door for the
numbers.
doggies.
Yes, you can require space
Hold
numbers
it,
to be
hold it.
listed in addition to their plate.
Motorcycle.
Okay. All right. So that's great.
Is Ms. Chandra trying to chime in or is it just background? Chief?
Oh, no, my apologies.
Oh, no, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure if you had something to say.
Jody's also at the airport, you guys, so sometimes when she's speaking, there's a little thing. I'm going through all the questions that we need to answer today. Sorry. The phone number stays the same for the parking bureau, so we can just add that as it is to the signage. So let's go on to special programs right now. So this is something that we've had a lot of discussion around, but we really need to nail it down today. So I've just named these what seemed correct to me, and I'm calling the first one permit by plate. And that's for short-term parking lots for use by residents and business owners only. So right now we have a thing where anybody can buy a permit and they don't even have to live here. And it's $250 and it's prorated, which seems incredibly crazy to me. So my suggestion is going to be $500, and they have to fill out an online application, and the applicant has to provide proof of their residency in the city of Hudson or business ownership. I've asked for the current application so that I can kind of do a comparison and use it kind of as a template, and I'm waiting for that. Doreen, you want to help me with that?
I have the current, I have.
Oh, you have it?
I have the current.
Yeah.
One they're using right now.
Okay, but maybe we can change the language so that they have to prove their residency, they have to prove that they're a business owner if they're either of those things. How do you guys feel about that? Because what has happened is that people who do not live in the city of Hudson, but want to store their car here are buying those and using them wherever they see fit. This brings me to another question. Are we going to still give the county free permits for their employees?
So do we have an option or?
Yeah, we can say no.
Okay.
Did you get any replies from your proposal?
Yeah.
Of course not. I didn't even get an acknowledgement of the email from anyone.
Then do it.
So why don't we do this, right? Maybe, charge them, a permit fee, but because they're an employee, have it 25% off, you know what I mean? Rather than the full, because again,
I'm just gonna give you an example. Outside of this place and outside of suburban areas, people pay for parking when they go to work. I'm just gonna say, when I used to work in the city, I would have to pay $900 a month to get to the city, then pay for the subway and then go to work. If I drove down there, it would be $30 or $40 a day to park. So
weren't a lot of those private lots though?
doesn't matter.
No, I'm just asking that.
You have to
right.
pay for on-street parking too, so it wouldn't matter, and you come back to a car that was beat up. So I'm just saying, the fact that people have to pay for parking when they go to work, that's not our problem. And also, the fact that the county has taken such advantage of the city, why are we giving them free things? I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Well, Jennifer, the way I look at it is you did the work of putting together a proposal and you received no replies. So we're free to make that decision. If they have any complaints, they could bring it back to us and then we could decide from there. But at this point, I don't think there's any need for any special privileges to be extended to any employment.
I think we should create a resolution and put it to the whole council.
So I also think though, right? If an employee has to pay the expense of parking, isn't that also, they can submit it to their income to have?
Yes.
All right, so I mean, they're getting the benefits, they're doing have to do the work, so why not just have
You
them
can write it off.
as a business, right? Because
Yeah.
it's work.
Mhm. So, yeah, this thing of us giving out permits to them, I mean, they're only supposed to use it in the Columbia Street lot, and that's not what's happening. They are parking in every lot, the ones on Warren, the one on Union, they're parking wherever they want. And I don't know that they're being ticketed. I doubt that they are, because people see the permit and they just let it go. I don't think it's, especially since it's being abused. I don't know that it's the right thing for us to do, and I think we should just end it.
Mhm.
And maybe we put it to a resolution and we let the whole council vote on it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's a good thing. We got that out of the way.
So just to reiterate, the permit by plate, the very first one, we talked about the short term. Is that also still gonna be prorated, $500?
No, just $500. And I do think that we have to talk about, we only have so many spaces available. How many of those spaces are we gonna sell as permit spaces? So maybe, what do you guys think? What percentage of those should be permits?
Well, this is another issue, right, that's going on in terms of, the planning board is accepting permit parking from their proposals, like the Pocket Factory, a lot of them, part of their parking plan is permit parking.
That's for their lots.
No. For the city lots.
What?
Yeah,
How can they do that?
they buy the permits.
Oh, the planning board by the permit.
No, not the planning board.
Oh.
The, like, for example, right, Pocketbook. Part of their parking plan was they're gonna provide, permits for the Plymouth Street parking lot. Right, the one walkable. So I think that was also the plan for the hotel on Union Street.
That they already do, they do that, the Whaler does it already with the Columbia Street lot. This is
Like I'm saying, so we
This is
need
a-
to,
this-
somehow we're gonna have to cap this. right?
is a real problem. This
Yeah.
is a serious problem, and this is why I keep talking about payment in lieu of parking. I've asked Crystal to get back to me with some information so that we can change the code. The code is screwball.
But that's why I think we need to cap these permits. right?
Yes, I agree, but the businesses shouldn't be taking over any of the parking that is supposed to be for residents. I mean,
Could-
it's crazy.
Could we do it where, I think we already asked about this, you and the committee together. We requested data on how many parking permits are given out as it stands now for those municipal lots. If we have data on that somehow, if it's possible that we can get that either from Doreen or the city clerk, whoever is taking care of that application now, we could cap it currently at like maybe 10% more than what it is right now, and then give the parking bureau the ability to reassess that with a cap of, let's say, 50% maximum, never to be exceeding 50%. I'm just giving a number. I'm not saying that's the number. It will never be reassessed at a higher rate than 45% or 50%, whatever we decide. But for now, it's kept at what the current permits are with the parking bureau, without having to come to the council, being able to adjust that no more than what we cap it at, if that makes sense.
We have to decide that today. Sorry.
Okay.
If we are going to try and get something into the next water bill, we have to kind of nail down what we're doing
Well,
today.
Could
So-
maybe Doreen chime in and say, maybe just throw out a number, like this is how many active permits there are in the city, and then we just base it off of that number so that we're not just like shooting in the dark. And I think Kevin has his hand up to chime in too.
Kevin,
Just as a point of comparison, I think I've told you this before, Jen, and Jody, you certainly know this. The Village of Port Jefferson has 600 paid spaces. They have 4,500 residential permits out at any given time. And that, for the most part, that's not a problem because, you look at those numbers, you go, wait a minute, you give 4,500 permits out for 600 spaces? Well, it's never where, 5% of people of those 4,500 are downtown at any given time. So just sort of use that as a comparison, if you will. Very similar in terms of the commercial district too.
but if these are businesses, mostly hotels, that are buying these permits, and it's hotel guests that are parking their car for a week at a time in a municipal parking lot, that is not
That needs to
good.
be kept. That needs to be kept. I think for hotels, it needs to be kept. But
If it's license plates, if permits are done by license plates, how can they get?
Yeah, now I think they can do it.
Right.
There's another way of doing it. Jody, do we have parking validation as part of text to pay?
Let me see if you added that. If not, it could be added on, but let me check real quick.
Oh, that's.
Because that's what should be capped. Right? If the businesses are using it for guests, right, that's should be how many,
What we should be doing is making every business, every developer that comes into this city pay for every spot that they are not providing for their guests. And that money should go into a fund so that we can build a decked parking unit. So that we're not, building huge swaths of parking lots everywhere, that it's just one space, hopefully with a green aspect to it, something nice, something that's not horrible. But we're gonna run out of space real quick. I mean, especially, we've got 5 new hotels coming. We've got, 250 unit building coming that doesn't have adequate parking. We have a 70 unit building that has no parking. We have potentially a 35 unit building that has no parking. We have the Galvin project that has inadequate parking. So we're gonna have issues.
The other example I want to bring up, and Doreen, I don't want to give you any more work than you have, but we have a hotel, for example, in Port Jefferson, where there's a 60-40 split. So the hotel guest comes in, they prepay per day for parking. That is notated in accounting, and at the end of the end of the month, Port Jefferson Village gets a 5-digit check. So they do no work. We don't have to maintain anything, and a check is given to the Village of Port Jefferson advance, because that hotel is monitoring how many they sell. Something to keep in mind for the, and Jen is absolutely right. You have to, after this phase, that's very important, look at the pileup situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we ask people when they buy a permit, whether it's a business or whether it's a individual resident, should we ask them which
How
lot
they can use it,
they
yeah.
should be used? Should we make it specific to a specific lot?
You're gonna have a
What do you
different
think,
data.
Doreen? What, Kevin?
You'll have a different link and a different database, so you'll know automatically which type of permit it is. They will not go into the same database. They'll go into the same system, but not the same database.
I don't follow.
Jody, chime in here, because you know what I'm talking about. The back end where a business applies at a certain URL is a permit that's available in that particular database, and the resident has a separate database. All the while, these clouds are talking to each other, because the only thing that really matters is the license plate. but your back-end administration, in this case, Doreen, will know the difference between that because there are two different databases.
I think what Jen is asking that should it be then designated what lot they're gonna be parking in? Right, Jen, is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
But so when you, if say, Kevin, you apply for a permit, are you applying for a permit that is specific to lots on Warren Street, or are you applying to the Union Street one, or?
Are
Jody, if
you
you're listening,
asking, are you
I'm
asking
all-
if the system has that ability, or are you asking us, the council members, should we limit it to the parking?
I'm asking Jody if that can work, and I'm asking you guys if you want to do that, if you think that's a
On
good
the
idea.
application. On
I
the,
Yes,
think-
you can limit what permits certain people can get. So it's kind of when they apply online, you could ask them to upload something specific that you're allowing them to have. And then when somebody in the office checks that, they would be able to determine if they are entitled to the permit or not.
Okay, so
Yeah.
for instance, but it could be specific to a lot. So we
Yes.
have, okay, great.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I think that's a good idea, especially if we're giving privileges to specific businesses or residents. They should have that privilege to the lots that apply to them. They don't need to have free reign for the entire city. You know, if I live on the 200 block of Warren Street, I don't need access to the one on, Union Street.
Okay,
that would be true, given, is there enough capacity if everybody that you're speaking about took a permit? Is there enough capacity? Otherwise, there's
so
over.
I think per lot, we should never go over 60% of what the number of spots. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
And
that
when you're applying, you should apply to a specific lot.
Jennifer, I just want to
Yeah.
bring to your attention the point that Kevin made earlier is that, if I remember correctly, he said there's about 600 something parking spaces, but 4,500 permits exist because, no one is expecting everybody to be parked at the same spot for the entire day. So are we essentially limiting our revenue by putting a lot, a hard cap on the amounts of permits?
I'm not sure we are. I mean, honestly, the way it is now, like I said to you, when I'm seeing the weekends here, all the lots are full and all of Warren Street is full. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But I
I
feel
think-
like,
One way of looking at it is, obviously we want a high turnover on our business district for Warren Street. But for the municipal lots, I think the idea is to encourage longer term parking, but at the same time increase revenue. So if we don't have a limit for how many, because we're no longer going to be saying like space 1 is for this person, it's just a permit. There's no real need for a hard limit for how many we sell, because we're not guaranteeing your space. Well, only thing we're guaranteeing is that you don't have to feed the meter when you find that parking.
It's really prepaid parking.
Yeah. We're not saying that you are definitely guaranteed a space at any location at all. You're just guaranteed not to be charged a ticket when you do find parking.
well, this is the other thing. I was thinking that if you're a resident and you want a parking space and you live on Warren and you want a parking space on Warren, and this brings up a whole bunch of stuff. Like, so if we're saying, I mean, there's been the suggestion that we don't have people overnight in the short-term parking. But I don't think that that's completely okay. Especially if you have a permit. If you're permitted, I think you should be able to stay overnight.
Yeah.
Whereas most people are are going to be gently nudged to leave after 2 hours because the price will go up by double. What do you think,
So
chief,
what,
bureau chief? She's got a look on her face, that's why I'm looking at her.
I don't know.
well, what would prevent someone to buy, like I said, buying a permit? And if they know they can park in a short-term lot overnight and using what you're saying as a parking spot for their vehicle, you know, continuously. Isn't that the problem of running into the Amtrak station?
No, that is not the problem we're running into at the Amtrak station. The Amtrak station is a completely different animal. It's not, most of those people are not residents of Hudson at all. These, you have to prove your residency if you get a permit for these lots.
But I'm saying though, isn't it, we're talking turnover again, and if we allow them to park overnight, right, doesn't that affect turnover? The next morning? Because that means you could, what's overnight? How are you going to?
I don't know. Do you have a suggestion? I mean, honestly, if somebody
My suggestion is
lives on Warren Street, they need a place to put their car, right?
I get it.
Are they gonna have to, I guess they would have to move their car into the lot during the day, move it out at night. And put it on the street and then get up in the morning and move it back to the lot. I mean, I guess that's.
I think that's the expectation of living in a city. Many places have, you know, street parking, so no one's really guaranteed to be able to leave their car parked for a prolonged period. And I think we should be encouraging that even for the short-term parking, because this is for parking and not for storage of your vehicle. So, you know, the assumption is that you're moving your vehicle at a regular interval. It is not being stored for 2-3 weeks at a time, you know, or even a whole week, unless there is
Okay.
extenuating circumstance, of course.
So nothing over 8 hours. How about that? So if you are working on Warren Street and you don't want to move your car because you're a waitress, you can have the business owner get you a permit through the business. You give your license plate and you can park in that lot for 8 hours during your shift.
I think you can even be a little bit more lenient than 8 hours. You could, you know, for permit holders only, increase that a little
Okay.
bit more. 8 hours, you know, some people might work a little more than that, or travel time, whatever.
Okay, so what
10
is it
hours
then?
or 10 hours or 12 hours, whatever you guys want to do, but
10 hours and no overnight? Or is it just 10 hours?
anybody else have a thought on that?
Because what if you work at the maker, huh?
What does it look like as far as enforcement or something like that?
If the police rolled by in our town, if it's after 5 PM in our town, if the police rolled by that lot and saw somebody parked there, they could scan their plate to see if they had a permit. That's what the enforcement would be. And then
That's
now,
only a permit only after a certain hour.
yeah, or no, a certain number of hours. So, well, because it ends at 6, so then anything after 6, then it would be something that you would have to scan and see, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to understand it. So you're saying like you gotta pay to park there until 6 PM. And then after 6 PM, the only people that are allowed in that parking lot are people who have a permit.
Right.
Okay.
So like if you were a waitress or you're a bartender or something and your shift gets over at 8 and your car is still there, you're safe.
Right, so the lot turns into a permit only lot after a certain time.
Yeah. What do you think of that? Does that sound correct or okay with everybody?
I think that's
I
right.
think it just should just be no overnight parking in short.
Yeah, I think, I agree.
But what if you work there?
No,
And you come in at 5 and you pay, it's a pay lot, but
but no one works
No, it makes sense, it makes sense.
overnight, right?
No, hotel, maybe
yes, they
somebody work
do.
overnight, you know?
On staff at night at all
So,
the
yeah, it makes
hotels.
sense. No one, I mean, yeah, security, manager.
Yeah.
You know,
The
Cleaner.
bartender.
bartender.
Yeah.
Well, bartender, I mean, they work till 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, if bars, once the bars.
Then it's overnight. If
Then it's overnight.
Then that means, yeah.
Oh, see, I'm thinking overnight, like, if you're there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, right? You shouldn't be there at 6 o'clock in the morning.
You might have a 12-hour shift.
Yeah, you start at 12, yeah. You start at 11 o'clock to 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. I mean, what if you're the cleaning person?
But if you cap it at 8 hours, right? What happens if you do an overtime? You
No,
get
that's
stopped.
why, that's why
But
we're
that
gonna
doesn't
cap it.
apply to the permits.
Okay, just permit only.
Yeah, the.
Yeah, permit only.
Gotcha.
And now caps for each lot, 75%?
Yeah, I think 75% is
A
enough.
lot.
Would be
First come,
permit.
first served.
Yeah, first come, first served, 75%.
Okay. All right, now, the next one, special program, that was permit by plate. This is accessibility parking. And it's for people who have severe disabilities. So it would be free on-street parking and short-term parking lots. Max 2 hour is waived for those people. The online application, you must provide proof of your disability via your doctor. Dominic sent me the state's form that
Meter waiver.
meter waiver for the state. We could make our own version of this for the city. And I'll give this to you, Doreen, so that you have it.
I have a question about what is severe disability, like what
Okay,
category?
so I'll read it to you. So, it's if you use portable oxygen, are legally blind, limit or no use of one or both legs, unable to walk 200 feet without stopping, neuromuscular dysfunction, that severely limits mobility, class 3 or 4 cardiac condition. And that's based on the American Heart Association standards. Severely limited ability to walk due to arthritic, neurological, or orthopedic condition. Restricted by lung disease to such an extent that forced respiratory expiratory volume for 1 second when measured by spirometry is less than, you get it.
Okay, yeah.
And physical or mental impairment.
Yeah, and didn't we decide to
No.
just to make it easier for the parking bureau just to leave it at if they have already a DMV placard or whatever,
No,
just use that as the proof, or are we requiring an extra proof of
I think that-
disability?
It should be an extra step so that the license plate is actually captured within our system. So that when the thing is.
No,
When the,
I
when the
understand what you're
meter-
saying, but I'm just saying, like, for example, if I have a little hanging tag, I just bring that to the parking bureau and say I have this, so I would like this vehicle registered. They don't have to provide any other proofs, just so it's easier for
Oh, that's
Doreen not to have to process. No,
No, this is.
I'm asking.
He's talking about
you need,
I think this,
you're asking someone with a disability to walk into a place with a placard. First of all, that's crazy. Second of all, this can all be done online. Click, click, click. They fill out the thing, they send it to the doctor. The doctor says, yes, you have this problem. They send it to Doreen, it's entered, she has to enter anything in the back end of the system anyway. It doesn't make a difference whether they walk in with the placard or they fill out an application online.
I'm not
She has
suggesting that they need to walk in with the placard, but the placards all have a number that they could be provided on the online application so that they don't have to go to the
That
doctor
can't
to
be-
get something else. That's what I'm asking.
That can't be read by the T2 system.
and placards can unfortunately, people abuse that.
Yeah, they do. all the
Let
time.
me just rephrase what I'm saying. I'm not saying about the programming of it. I'm saying in order for me to get the T2 accessibility parking permit, I shouldn't need another doctor's note if I already have a hanging tag. I just provide you with the proof, either online or in person, however, that I have accessibility permit already. Can you extend that, can you register this vehicle in the T2 system as an
No,
accessibility?
this is, no, Ronnie,
It's the
this is
license
different.
plates.
She's talking about the free parking, not like, if you have a placard, you could park any handicap parking, but you gotta.
But you're still gonna have to
You
pay.
still pay, but she's talking about free parking
For residents.
for
Free
residents.
parking for residents and the 2-hour max is waived. So if you can't walk 200 feet because you have a mobility issue, you don't have to move your car and you don't have to pay.
I understand that part of it. I think we're talking past each other at this point. I'm not saying to give everybody has a placard the ability to get this 2 hours max waive. I'm saying when Doreen gives this permit, they don't have to pay the 2 hour max. That permission will be granted based on if this person that lives on Warren Street already has a permit. I'm not saying that everybody that has a permit will now be able to have the 2 hours max waived. That does.
So, Ronnie, that, the way Albany does it, right, there's two different distinctions. The placard can be used anywhere, right?
Right.
So with the waiver, it's only for residents, right? And,
Yes.
and they have, because it could be, something could be temporary. Right, and it also, I think what we should do for the waiver, right, is have an application fee, 25 hours. It's gotta be some kind of processing fee, because you're getting free parking. So there should be an application fee.
Are we doing that for the permits as well and for all the other programs? Are we charging an application?
I don't know. I don't know. Are we?
Okay,
Would you for the permits?
Well, the permit has a price to it.
but this doesn't. So this is why you're saying we need a,
Because it's a processing fee, because somebody's gotta do the work, right?
okay.
But it's, nominal, right?
So how much the charge?
I think it should be 25 hours. I think that's fair, right? 25 hours application fee. But I still think, it should also be a renewal, right? Because not that you have to do the application, the fee again, but you should have to submit a renewal because someone could be temporarily have mobility issue due to an injury. And now they have full mobility. They should have to reapply, right?
None of these things you are going to recover from. None of the things that are listed here,
No, yeah, but, okay. But
there's nothing on here
No,
that
no.
you would ever recover.
We are waiving only 2 hours, not the whole time, right?
What?
No,
On the
no, no.
first 2 hours, wait,
No. It's the whole time. It's free.
okay, so
Yeah.
we should be charged.
Okay, but I don't know that you have to come back, because if you look at this, if you're legally blind, you're not gonna suddenly see again. If you use portable oxygen, you're probably going to be stuck with that for the rest of your life. My mother was. Limited use of one or both legs, I don't think that you're gonna get it back. I don't know, maybe if there's some kind of miraculous thing happening, but I don't know that you should have to reapply for this.
But, okay, not everyone's, I know you have a list there, right? But what happens is someone due to
You
an
gave
injury,
me this list.
but, yeah, but I was saying, I know that was, but I'm also saying what happens if someone is temporary disability. Yeah, how's it that?
Dominic, it says like,
Okay, fine, let's do it. How long? In a year, 3 years, 8 years? What's the time limit?
I think it should be depending on if it's temporary, right? If someone comes in with a doctor's note that they have an injury due to temporary, right? It should be a year
How do
No,
you
no,
know
no,
if
no, no.
something's temporary or not?
No, Dominic,
because of the time note.
it's, no, that thing is, it's a severe disability. That's mean, it's like severe disability don't consider temporary. It's like,
I get what you're saying, but how are we gonna accommodate someone that is for 6 months?
If it's 6 months, their neighbor can help them. This is for people who are not going to get help. And they live alone and they're, you know, like all of the people who wrote to me saying, can you please
Listen,
put
I'm not,
something
I'm
together?
not, I'm not saying to exclude that, and I think that to assume that a neighbor can help someone, you know, that has temporary disability, right?
Okay, can you give me a time limit? We've got so much else to do tonight. I mean, seriously, give me a time limit, like.
Kevin, what do you think? Have you
I-
read into this?
I do think, since you're rechecking other permits, it should be a yearly check-in. I do.
Okay,
I think it's a very small percentage of people too. I think this total,
yeah, this is gonna be like 10 people.
So this is gonna be 1 year from time of application.
Yes,
Or from issuance of the permit. Okay.
perfect.
You need to do a health check.
Sure, we'll hire you for that.
I'll do it. Do it for free.
Okay. Parking validation for businesses. So I'm gonna check with Steph, at T2 about that. Cause maybe that's a way we could just do away with permits for hotels and things like that. They would have to do some other thing, a code or some kind of validation.
T2 has, they do have a system, it's called fleet
Mhm.
working. So like the whatever can go online, they can have an online account with T2. And they have 10 spaces. Now, I don't know if we're gonna charge for that or how it works, but I just know in the system, then somebody that works for Whaler has got these sign-ins. And every day they update what the license plates are for the people who are active. And that integrates with our handhelds.
Great,
that's good.
Fleet maintenance, but I don't know if we charge
maintenance.
or how much.
Yeah,
that
we
would be.
determine the charge.
I will ask, because since that is not that's specific to businesses, I don't know that we have to include that in all the specifics of it in our fact sheet. We can still send that out, and once, maybe I can get an answer before then anyway, but we could offer it. Yeah, okay, maintenance.
Because you put it on the business owner, that they're the ones who has to update this, and if somebody's parked there and scan the plate and it doesn't come up as an active fleet car, then they get a ticket.
Yeah,
Okay,
Okay.
perfect. Fleet maintenance parking, okay. So all of the above are non-transferable if the registration does not match the driver, or the license plate. The car doesn't belong to the person who's driving it, then their privileges are revoked. Does that sound okay?
yeah, non-transferable, then you are using in a hotel, so it's,
But all of these, so meaning the permits by plates, the accessibility, parking, all of those are
Okay,
non-transferable. So if you get caught violating
Yeah.
that, then you're,
yeah, obviously, yes.
okay, that's okay with everybody, and they get a ticket. Okay. Okay, so Doreen, can you work on applications?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Then they're gonna get a ticket.
Yeah.
There's a limit, I mean, how much money they're gonna get ticketed, or what, or how much they're gonna get ticketed?
I don't know, what do you think? For lying, a lying ticket.
Yeah,
Or forgery, or say you take your uncle's car and you park in wherever and your parking is free, but it's not really free because you are not.
your uncle is not driving.
Yeah.
So the unauthorized use.
Unauthorized use, yes. So there should be a cap on it, so how much they're gonna charge. Like if they got caught, they're gonna have to pay tickets.
Just so I can understand, so you're saying like, if so if somebody had a permit to park in these lots,
Mhm.
but somebody else used it on their vehicle, they'd get a ticket.
No, they drove someone else's car and parked for free.
Well, they wouldn't, because license plate wouldn't match the permit. Because they're gonna scan license plate, and the license plate can be.
No, what I'm saying is they drove someone else's car, so the plate is the only thing that you're seeing. But if somehow, like, they got stopped or something by the police and they saw that this is not a car that's registered to them, they would then they'd be found out. Does that make sense?
Oh, I get, so you're saying that if another driver is
Yes.
using that permitted vehicle
Right.
and they park and use the vehicle, but the permit isn't the permit for the vehicle, not the driver, or both?
It's for the driver.
Okay, right, so,
So in other words, if you have a permit, an accessibility parking permit, and your nephew took your car and decided not to pay the fee,
It's all the time.
happens all the
Yeah,
time.
that's why we should
all
make
know
it.
this. So if you get caught doing that, then your privileges are revoked and you get an unauthorized use ticket.
so I think that it would be a fine rather than a ticket. I don't.
All right,
Yeah, fine, I mean, not
Right,
ticket, fine, I mean.
right, yeah,
okay, so you're fined. Okay, so what should the fine be?
I think I think there should be escalating, right? It should be a first offense, second offense, and then revocation. I think it's gonna be hard to revoke an accessible plate.
$100 per.
Yeah,
Right, per event,
100 the first time, 250 the second time, and 3 strikes you're out?
what do you mean that's out?
And this is just for the accessibility one.
No, for all of them. I mean, you're basically lying. You're basically trying to cheat the system, which I think is more egregious than parking in a no parking zone sometimes. Like, that's just.
Mhm.
I know.
I don't know, I feel like the permit by plate is gonna follow the vehicle. And so it doesn't matter who's driving it, but that vehicle is able to park there. And I feel like the accessibility permit is leaning towards the driver. And it's not really a
I
plate, it's a driver.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think it's two different things.
yeah,
okay,
As far as-
all right, I talked to, all right, so
I don't
for
know, Roy had the suggestion of,
Ronnie,
no, Roy,
Lloyd,
But
no, Law,
what if you're a construction company? and you get
no, that's a whole different
that's
ballgame.
different thing.
put on a permit?
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. That's not anything we're talking about.
Sounds like you're talking about.
No, we're
that's
not.
different.
It's a whole different thing. Actually, I was talking to the finance committee and they want us to come up, because I asked. Because currently there's a $25 ticket given for if you overstay in the long-term lot.
Mhm.
They're like, okay, well, we're gonna just hand that over to you. You guys decide. Because they've been going through all the fees for all of the tickets for everything. But that, they were like, anything parking related, you guys have to do that.
I think our code says that the county council sets all the fees.
Mhm.
Our city code our city code literally says to be set by a fee established by the county council.
Yeah,
But
we
we
make a
have to-
resolution, yeah.
would
We have to make a resolution and
Yes.
pass it, but we set the price, how much it's gonna be. Then we're
Okay,
gonna
so
submit it.
what is your suggestion for overstaying at the long-term lot? It's currently 25.
$2,500.
Oh, no, really? That's 2 weeks worth of payment.
Yeah, that's what the report. Yeah,
75? 50? I don't know.
yeah,
Can Kevin, this.
Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah.
Well, I think at 25, you know what I'm thinking is you have to give enough reason
It's-
to break the rules. So yeah, it should go up to 75. For sure.
Okay.
Kevin.
Mr. Big Bucks, Kevin. So, yeah, so that's a week and 3 days is what that equals in payment down at that lot. Should it just be a week's worth? That would be $50,
Well, it's doubling what it is now, so.
doubling what it
Yeah.
is.
Double,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do that. Sorry, Kevin, you're great. Thanks for pushing us.
Well, there is negotiation once you get, you know, if you can fight a ticket and have I'm quite sure you have that process, right?
Well, let's ask the bureau chief.
So there is a way to appeal a ticket at this point.
Right.
Well, I remember reading in the code, you go back to the original fine, but any late fees can be taken off.
To the city
Okay.
attorney.
City attorney, right?
Okay. I think most of these other questions we're gonna have to keep talking about, but, I'm just gonna reiterate that payment in lieu of parking, we really have to get on that. That is not a joke, you guys. We are really setting ourselves up for disaster if we don't start setting money aside for parking. And it shouldn't just be left up to the city of Hudson. It should be the developers paying into this. I don't want to stop people from developing, but I mean, the way it is now, there are no rules. And people can do whatever they want. And it's not.
Well, basically, it's called a community host agreement, right? So kind of like what Stewart's did, right? When they did their expansion, because the city negotiated a community host agreement where they contribute, I think it was like $200,000 to improve that intersection.
I
because-
think that this should be part of our code, and it should be called payment in lieu of parking. And many other municipalities do this already. Port Jefferson does it. I know they do it. I looked it up. It's not the same as a community host agreement or whatever that is, that it's different. I'll send you guys links to things that I've found. It's really, I think if we don't move on this within the next month or two, we're in big trouble, really big trouble. Because we have to do this before people break ground on these projects.
You also know that, with the Galvin project, right? On 7th Street, part of the planning board of the parking was because they need handicap parking, that the city was gonna designate handicap parking for that project, from my understanding. And also because of the way that the cut was, I think you're also taking parking spots away. So I think that parking, needs to really be, like you said, established on what a developer needs for parking needs to be reinvested into the city for parking.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Exactly. So I think that the rule has been traditionally for parking minimums, it's 4 spots per 1,000 square feet. So if, like, for example, 11 Warren Street, which the county has purchased, that's 18,000 square feet. I think it's 72 parking spaces that they would have needed, and they only have 30 parking spaces, I think. So they're lacking 40 parking spaces. So if we were to charge them $4,000 per space, do the math, it's 160,000. Is that right? No, I'm doing the wrong math. 40, no,
No,
that's right, 160,000. So if every developer or anyone who wanted to build here, or any hotel that was refurbishing a building that doesn't have any parking, if we did that, with them, we would soon have enough money to build a parking garage.
But parking garage is like $30,000 per spot.
It's
So, yeah, right.
for what we need. I mean, in our parking plan that we had done in 2022. We need 15 million to 20 million.
Yeah.
To build.
And that's that number.
I mean.
It went up now.
Yeah, I'm sure it went up by now. I do have plans to talk to some other people that might be able to give us some seed money, but at this point, we need to really put it in our code and make sure that people stick to it and that, because as I'm finding out by doing this is very expensive, all of the parking.
Oh, yeah.
It's really expensive.
Jen, since we're talking about fees, is the only thing that we're thinking of increasing right now for violations is just the long-term parking lot and a double.
No, I think we need to examine all of it, but I'm just thinking what we need immediately in order to put out our fact sheet and get our signage made. Those are the two that was kind of where we were. I mean, there was already, I'm so sorry. There's already on the signage down at the long-term parking lot, it actually has on the sign what the fee for overstaying is. And it says you will be towed at your own expense, blah, blah, blah. So just as kind of a warning, because there have been problems down there with that kind of thing. I've been following, do you want to show the signs? I've been,
So for the municipal lots, when we're talking about the $500 business or residential permit for $500.
Yeah.
What would the violation be if a car stayed there overnight and they did not have it? So it's gonna be a permit only after some time.
do we want to do that today? Oh, we should probably do that today.
I don't know if we're gonna make a decision when enough that something we need to.
Kevin, what do you think?
I think your
Kevin?
content, I think your, yeah, you can hear me. Good. I think your content's good. I think we can make these look better and we will make them look better, but yeah, they're great. It's everything we just talked about. If I may just for a second, go back to two things that are really important. I agree with Jen so much on the pileup for the benefit of your city. You should really dedicate one of your next meetings to the subject of pileup. It's really, really important. And I would say to you, you probably have more than a few developments that are past the point of even paying pileup because they made some decisions based on policy. I'll leave that up to the legal team, but that's a really important discussion. Otherwise, developers are probably like smiling as they come to Hudson going, hey, we can put anything.
They are.
I'm serious. It's very, very serious. It's probably more serious.
They don't have to pay for parking. I mean, they're laughing all the way to the bank.
They have it made. The other thing, please, before we get to signage, and I know Jody had to leave, but for the benefit of everybody on this call, please walk us through, Jen, if you have this down to a science. When somebody pays $1.50 for parking for 2 hours, what are they actually paying, including convenience fees? And do those fees mirror each other on the text to pay as opposed to the meter? And again, Jody left at this point.
They don't. So if you pay cash or cash and change, you're
At the rate.
paying $1 at the kiosk. If you choose to pay by text, you are paying the convenience fees on top of that. So you're paying, I think it's 11 cents to get it hooked up to the satellite. And then you're paying an additional 35 cents that is a credit card related fee.
So again, let's use the figure, the $1.50 for 2 hours short term. Are we saying it would be $1.50 plus 46 cents? Is that fair?
It's no. So
I think it's coming out of the $1.50.
No, it's,
No.
no,
No?
it's on top of, no. Why would the
No,
city pay for
You wouldn't
that?
want that. You'd almost go backwards, actually. On a 75-cent transaction, you would be going backwards. That's what, I think this is a really important subject before we go live. And we can reconfirm this, but please, if you will, the $1.50. And then you said
No, there's
11
no
cents,
$1.50. No, there's no $1.50. There's
2 hours.
70,
I'm pretending that somebody is paying for 2 hours of parking.
so that would be $2. And then on top of that, if you're paying by text, it would be 11 cents plus 35 cents.
By the
So
phone.
there-
So $2.46, as opposed to paying cash, which would be $2.
What is that
Let's-
for? Convenience fee, you said?
Yes.
Can
So I
we just
just
say
want-
that in the?
So in the signage, they have to mention like 75 cents per hour
Wait.
plus service fee.
We can do that.
Yeah,
Before-
because,
I want to get the numbers
Yeah.
right. The short-term rate is 75 cents an hour.
I'm not really, I mean, I have it here somewhere, but I have hundreds of pages of information in front of me. So but
That's okay.
that's what,
Yeah, I'm not asking for
Is-
exact figures. I'm just saying, do we agree that 75 cents at 2 hours is $1.50 cash?
no, it's
Right.
not 75 cents, 75 cents per hour.
It's
Like
75
hour.
cents an hour, and somebody knows they need to park for 2 hours. So if they pay cash, they're going to pay $1.50. Do we agree?
right,
Okay.
yes, and if they pay it with text to pay or text to park, they are going to be paying that plus a convenience fee.
Of 46 cents.
Yes, something like that, 46 or 47 cents.
But yeah, and the signage, you
What-
have to say,
What does that, before we get to that, what does that person pay at the meter? 2 hours, 75 cents. What are they going to pay total?
75 cents at the meter,
If they're paying cash.
if they're paying cash.
If they're
No,
using text to
They're
pay,
using a
they
credit,
pay
no,
that.
they're using a tap. If they're using a credit card, you're going to find that 70% of your transactions are going to be credit card. So I'm asking for a reason. 75 cents, they're parking for 2
And
hours.
it's probably 75 cents plus the 35 cents. Or
Not-
that's the convenience fee. The whole
30
convenience fee. If you pay with
40
cash though, you get a discounted rate.
I understand. I just want to understand that what I'm trying to put across to everybody on this call is whether you pay by credit card at a physical meter or you pay text to pay, it will be the same 46 cents convenience fee. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so, yes.
Okay. We
no,
we should reconfirm this, and then this council ad hoc committee should decide, do you want those fees on the sign?
Yes, we'll put them on the sign.
So
No,
Kevin, when you say,
I'm not saying they have to be on the sign because it's going to be in the transaction itself. I think it can be very confusing and it could be off-putting. I'm just putting that out there. They're gonna know that. Just,
Do not put it on the sign.
I would not put it on this.
my question to, right, because my question to you, if you put it on the sign, right? Is those numbers, because a fee could change next year, right? That means, will we have to buy new
That's
signage or is it a way
No.
to just change the fee?
Last week, last meeting, he showed you signage that you could slap on top of other signs.
Right. Correct. And it's not a
So
lot of
we-
money to replace the sign. But
But
that's
I
sort
don't
of.
think,
Mhm,
But that's,
go ahead.
I'm talking about the fee though.
if the fee goes up,
Right.
yeah,
Right, if the fee goes up,
then we
that
have
means,
to
like,
change all the signs, which is thousands and thousands.
that's what I'm saying, right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so no, we don't put it on there. But it's going to, I mean, maybe it's a decal on the actual
okay,
kiosk.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Can we put in the actual kiosk, like how much is this for park, you know?
Well, that's what the meters have now, right, Dorian?
The meter
You-
don't take cash rate.
Right, but they have stickers on. Aren't there
There's no
stickers?
convenience fee. It's just the price of the parking and that's it.
Right.
That's it.
You're going to see that in the transaction. When you go to put in a credit card, it's going to change from $1.50 in this case to $2.06 is what I'm hearing, or $1.96 to be exact.
The way it looks when if you look at T2's informational videos about how to pay with text to pay. So they sent me an MP4 and they sent me something that you can link. It's in YouTube somewhere. On the receipt, it breaks it apart.
Yep.
It says, this is the fee from Hudson. This is the fee from the satellite company. This is the fee from your credit card company.
I get it.
It's part. It's
Right.
itemized and it's at the end, 1
Okay.
cent. That's what I've seen so far. Maybe this is something that we have to clarify. The other thing is, we're really worried still about this PCI compliance. I don't know. I guess we're fine. We are compliant.
You're
Is that
fine.
right?
That PCI compliance happens within the T2 system. And in the case of the text to pay, you're getting a net sum. So it's all on them. You have nothing to worry about.
But they told me I had to fill out paperwork with a company called Card Connect. And Card Connect was the one who gave me all of the information on what our additional fees were going to be.
That is if you've chosen, when I say you, the city has chosen to be merchant of record. Only if they've been chosen to be the merchant of record. And we can clarify that with Jody. And again, she had to catch a plane.
Okay. But if they're telling me that I have to go to another company, then what is that all about?
It's not, we don't use any card companies in the office. We don't use any card machines at all. So we use third party. Because T2 takes the money for us. ITS will take the money for us.
That's right.
Cardinal takes the money for us. Text to pay will take the money for us.
So why then are they asking me to fill out PCI compliance papers with a specific company, Card Connect?
I think we have partners.
Okay.
Verify for them.
I mean, if we have purchased kiosks that have card readers, then we have card readers.
You have card readers.
This is what I need clarification on that for sure.
I will report very clear details on that. I'm in touch with Jody.
And when can you, Kevin, get us artwork for the signage and also what the lead times are for signage and prices?
So the lead time is 2 weeks. The proof of art will be given to you when you confirm that what I'm looking at, for example, is everything that you want and nothing more or less.
Okay.
If this is the content we all agree on, we'll go with that.
Okay.
And then
Those are the correct QR codes, by the way. This is just a mock-up.
right. Yeah, I figured. Phone number's now right, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I will correct it on the little scanny sign, but it's correct on the other one.
And Doreen, you get email there, I would think, right? At parkingbureau@cityofhudson.org. That's valid, right?
Oh, yeah, so, yep, right now that goes to Canada.
But it will go to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the part that we have to understand is when we spoke and I was up there, we talked about us producing these signs a little bit, not a little bit, a lot better quality, density, 10 millimeters on the bigger signs to make them more robust. And the don't laugh when I ask you this, but the DPW was adhering the sign to plywood and putting them in the ground. Is this not the case?
Well, as you have seen from my emails, I don't really know what's going on with the DPW,
Okay,
unfortunately.
you want, yeah, again, if budget is always a consideration here, you want it to be done. I'm confident that we can get signs done for the least amount of money. I'm confident that we could make them look good, but I'm confident you can get installation from $0 from your own DPW or a local sign installer, less than it would take for me to send a crew there to install them, just being upfront and honest. So we
Okay,
should,
well, Kevin, can you just put everything in a quote for us? Like,
Yep.
give us metal, coroplast, and for the large signs, what it would cost to have beautifully done wooden carved signs. I just want to know what it costs.
you got it.
Just
Okay.
all three of those, plus installation from your guys in case we can't get it done through DPW for some reason. Because today he told me he was out.
I did see that.
I
Okay,
don't know, I don't know what that means, and I'm not getting answers. So I'd like to know from you what the whole package would cost, highest end, lowest end, and then we can talk about it at the next
Zero to
meeting and then within 2 weeks.
you got it.
Okay,
You'll have that by the end of the week, easily.
thank you so much. And I will send you guys the email with all of the artwork for the signs. I'll send you tomorrow after I correct things, just the verbiage for the signs. And you can tell me, hey, this looks great. Hey, no, this won't work, for whatever reason. And then I will pass it to Kevin. Then by the end of the week, he can have the actual, ready to go artwork, and then I will send that out to you guys, okay? And then we can approve it and we can move forward. Lloyd,
Just a couple quick ones. The 35 cents or the 11 cents, who gets that?
credit card company
So that's all, okay.
and ITS, because they are hooked to the satellite. It's not coming to Hudson.
The 75 cents coming to Hudson.
No, I get that. So I would suggest that that's negotiable.
No, it's not.
Okay, it should be. Everything like is negotiable. All right, the building developers.
Yes,
I actually really feel like they get away with it.
they are.
So I don't know what happened. Was it 2019?
Yes, it was.
So that's when the common council decided that they didn't have to provide for adequate parking for. I would reverse that.
Minimums for parking are really frowned upon right now. But we are going, as a trend nationally, but we are going to have a real problem, especially in two parts of town. One is the waterfront and the other is up near 7th Street. We are going to have serious, serious problems.
So I understand taking an existing building, and refurbishing it, but a new development absolutely should have adequate parking.
Wow.
Why not?
Or if there isn't room there for adequate parking, we can do something about it somewhere else.
I wouldn't compromise on that personally. I'd be hard and fast if they provide, if they have their plot of land, they not burden the street parking because we are already burdened. Just my point, we can take it or leave it.
I'm gonna leave
We're
it.
gonna move on, fine. I wanna go on record, okay? In terms of the specific lots for permit holders. So you're gonna say, if I can park on Union Street, what if I have a permit holder, I go in there and it's full?
Then
Yes,
that's tough.
Yeah.
Yes,
You know, there's a whole attitude here that I'm finding rather coarse.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm trying to find a course.
No, you're not. And I'm just thinking at some point,
Lloyd, it's first come, first serve.
Yeah, that's what it's.
can I speak? You're only gonna be a short time to speak, so you're gonna have a little decency and respect, and asking you.
Lori, we've been here for a couple of hours now, so,
That's not my fault.
oh my
All right,
God.
I'm just gonna quickly go through the rest of my points, only 2 or 3 points, okay?
You're not part of this committee.
Jen, he's part of.
I know, but he's really starting something with me, and he's done it the past 2 meetings.
But I get it, but open meeting law, he has the right to speak.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Don. All right, so I'm wondering if we should actually have some notion of what we're looking to accomplish. I'm thinking, and I tried to ask a question about the current revenue. I think the current revenue is around $1 million or a little less. Okay, how much are we projecting or targeting to have as revenue?
That would be like trying to ask me if I'm clairvoyant, because we don't know what the current trends for tourism here are down. So I don't know that it will be the same as next year. Next year could be double, it could be triple, it could be, we could fall off. I don't know. I have no idea.
We are adding parking that isn't currently being charged, right? So we are adding parking that we're not charging. So
Where's that?
from 3rd to 1st.
Oh, you were charging the,
We're not charging.
what's the third?
From 3rd,
The idea is to start charging.
right, from 3rd, from,
Third to front and then from 8th to work.
I understand that.
right. So right now, we're not charging. So
Now
now,
there's increased revenue.
that's.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there could be another increase because we're doubling
The amount.
the amount that we're asking people to pay it double.
Okay, and we don't have really a clear idea of what that could be. Now,
I do, actually, but I'm not gonna dig through this book to get it out right now. You can write to me, you can write to me, write to me.
and I would just watch that one last point, if I may. You might consider paying auditing in the $250 rate for the existing permit holders. I don't know that you want to really punish the people that are in here, or if you're looking towards, but that's just another thought.
We haven't raised the prices in that lot since 2012. I think it's time.
Well, I think we should have free parking, and I think we should come up with the revenue elsewhere. That's a whole nother McGill now, isn't it?
Well, how do you propose doing that? Literally, I'm really seriously asking.
At this point,
Jennifer,
Yeah. it looks like we're going through a lot of.
we are obligated to listen to Lloyd, but you don't have to answer every one of his questions.
You don't have to be antagonistic.
You're being
I'm
antagonistic.
just bringing up what I consider valid points.
What, Lloyd, our goal here is to.
Raise revenue.
Right, but there's,
Okay,
but just like life, there's no guarantee on trends, right?
right.
But our goal is to raise revenue and try to do what we can in a fair and balanced way, right? So there's gonna be a choice for people to do the parking, residential parking, right? And they have to evaluate if their use of that parking lot is beneficial to themselves and paying parking outright, right? So that's a decision they have to make.
We all make decisions in life.
Well, I'm saying that that's a choice they have to make. They're gonna say, listen, I'm gonna save X amount, if I do $500, I'm gonna save, because I park every day, so ABC. So I'm gonna save money, ultimately, if I park every day and use the parking, right, regular parking. So that's something they have to evaluate on their own, right? And so, initially, also, increasing revenue also is gonna hopefully increase our infrastructure for parking. We can repay parking lots, we can make it more accessible. Right now, we have no funding for that. So our funding right now is to hopefully increase the surfaces of our parking to make them more.
Or create new parking.
Well, that's the ultimate goal, but I'm saying initially, short term.
But we're going to run into trouble if we don't raise
I
revenue.
agree with you, and that whole building on 7th Street.
But you just said we should have free parking for everyone.
Well, if we actually did things correctly, maybe we could afford that.
What's
But we're
wrong
not
with,
letting these developers, overrun us.
okay, we're going around in circles now. I'm going to, end the
Thank you.
meeting.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thanks for, anybody online have a question? No? No?
Kevin still has his hand up. I'm not sure if that's just leftover or if he has
Kevin, it
anything.
says old one?
That is left over. I'll take it down. I apologize.
No, no problem.
All right, have a good night, everybody.
That's a stale hand.
Stale hand. All right,
How are you there?
meeting's adjourned.
Goodbye.